So Minas Ithil is something completely new in Shadow of War in that we've got this full-scale human city where we begin the game and the story fighting this epic siege.
When we open the game, the city is under siege by the Witch King and Sauron's forces. So there's all kinds of turmoil happening.
And the reason that we wanted to do that was important to us, is we wanted to reproduce the most epic and iconic sort of battles that we associate with Lord of the Rings. So if we think about Helm's Deep, or if we think about Minas Ithil in Return of the King, we wanted to see that and be able to play that and produce this huge siege.
In Shadow of Mordor, we had two fairly organic geographical locations, and what we wanted to do here, thus the title Shadow of War, is go outside of Mordor and really show a human city and do a city nonetheless, and just expand the world in multiple axes.
And the other thing we wanted to do this time is to actually take the player beyond Mordor, actually have Talion fight alongside human characters, Gondorian armies, and really remind people what it is that they're actually fighting for, what they're fighting to preserve of this human civilization and the free peoples against the forces of darkness.
When we developed Minas Ithil, what we tried to do was do a lot of research and sort of understanding how a medieval city is constructed. We looked at all kinds of different references. We looked at Minas Ithil from the films, and that's where we came back to that Romanesque architecture. The team and I spent a lot of time trying to understand, how the spires are built, all the way down to how you would construct a building during that time period, the available materials, whether it be wood, it be stone, and kind of how that stone was manufactured. Like we spent a lot of time trying to make sure everything was authentic. We worked with a fellow named Ted Nasmith, who is an illustrator, but he's also an architect. And he did all kinds of really cool pencil sketches. We wanted to bring that level of authenticity in terms of how the city was built. And so there's kind of three main levels that are defined in Minas Ithil. Similar to Minas Tirith, where it has 7 layers, Minas Ithil has 3.
We've got all of the different buildings through all of the different layers of the city, from the poorer areas down the bottom, weaving up around through the valley up to the Tower of the Moon up at the top, and the ability to actually explore up there and see the final human survivors that are holding out against this siege. We also get to see the transformation of this human city. We see Minas Ithil actually go through this transformation, fall to the Witch King, and become Minas Morgul. So it actually takes something that's really iconic in Lord of the Rings, and we get to see how it became what it is and actually live through that experience and that battle and see that in a new way.
I think that one of the funnest parts of building Minas Ithil is we built it as if it was a pristine city, and then the challenge is how do you break that down into something that feels realistic. And in doing that, you have to understand how those structures are built first to imagine if a ballista hit it, how would the bricks break down, how would the pieces fall apart. And so we kind of built each of the assets in a pristine state and also a demolished state or a destroyed state.
But then even beyond that, we've got the whole environment in which the city is placed. So there's barrows and tombs that are secret and are buried beneath the city. There's wilderness around the city. Our vegetation has expanded enormously. There's the mountains. There's caves leading away from Minas Ithil back into the mountains, which opens up Cirith Ungol that's on the other side. So it's not just the scale of the city, it's the variety that gives us.
The really cool thing about Minas Ithil is that, like all of our levels as compared to Shadow of Mordor, they're all bigger. They're at least 1.5 to 2 times the size of the original levels in Shadow of Mordor. And that really, I think, speaks a lot to what we were trying to accomplish.
And then, of course, what becomes really important is that our movement and traversal has been upgraded to go with this massively larger and more complex and more detailed environment. So we can now use the powers of the Wraith to sprint around and move faster. We can double jump from rooftop to rooftop. Our climbing has accelerated, so we can go straight up the sides of these massive buildings and towers and just bring a whole new level of mobility into the gameplay as well.
One of the cool things about developing Shadow of War is we were purely focused on the current generation of hardware. So when development started on Shadow of War, we kind of rewrote a lot of the graphic side of the engine. So we have a brand new terrain system that allows for a lot more flexibility in how we do blends. Basically what it comes down to is we can get a lot more detail.
The entire city is free for you to go wherever you want at any time. Like, it's a completely open world in that area. So you can go down and hunt down orc commanders in their strongholds and their camps that they've set up in the city. You can explore and look for different collectibles. You can go into the barrows and replay events from Celebrimbor's past. You can play the story missions and work together with the Gondorian army and reveal those. There's a big theatre in the city that the orcs have taken over and turned into this colossal fighting pit where they're having gladiatorial battles and missions take place in there.
The goal was to have that big epic moment in the beginning of the game, and it speaks again to the level of epicness and scale that we're pushing across the entire game.
There's just a huge amount of story elements and exploration and gameplay and nemesis enemies, so that no one's ever going to have the same experience anytime they're wandering around and exploring it either.